Okay, two-part video, my past and present. This is going to be part one for you guys. Well, you can probably tell by the accent. I'm not from the US originally. I'm definitely not from the Philippines. I was about 20 something or other. I can't really work out the date to be honest with you. It's been so many years since that happened, and I met someone online, and at that point I was very early in my career. I was running a network for a smaller for a big construction company, shall we say, but it was a small office. And I decided to pack everything up and move to the US. Be it a good decision or a bad decision, I chose to do that. And I put a plan together. I liquidated all my assets, sold my car to a friend, threw everything into 2 suitcases, and jumped on a plane and moved to the US. Bad part about that was I could not work for about 6 months. My first day at work was Columbus Day, and that day it was October 9th of that year, so I had a pretty easy drive to work on that day. I started work on October 9th, 2000, and I never looked back since, or really took too many vacations between now and this year, at least over there. But yeah, sold everything, and I was basically a risk taker. You know, I risked everything on starting again. I got burned. I won't go into that, but it was a rough experience at times, shall we say. So my first stop was Michigan. I spent 13 years over there, with some crazy climate, shall we say. And my first impression was, you know, the food. People in the US eat out all the time. That doesn't happen in England. You know, you eat out in England on special occasions, maybe someone's birthday, maybe someone's wedding anniversary, stuff like that. You dress up and go eat out and go have a curry at a restaurant or something. In the US, people eat out all the time, non-stop. The food's very fatty, the huge portions, you all know. It has an effect on your body. I came over here and I was like 150 pounds, maybe 120 pounds, I don't know. And I gained 30, 40 pounds in that first year or something, and it really took a toll on my body. You know, I was in the bathroom a lot. I was getting slow. I was getting lethargic. It wasn't a good adaptation for my body, and also, you know, I had nothing. I had like $2,000 when I came here. Okay, well, $2,000 does not get you very far at all, and I was scraping to get by in the last few weeks before I found that job. I was just finding quarters under the couch or get, you know, a burger or something, and it was really scraping by. But you know, I made it, and it was hard, but I made it through, I guess. And of course, you show up here, and then, yeah, like I said, you can't work right away. It's not like you show up and you get a green card and you just start jumping into a job. It's nothing like that. You show up and you have to file a bunch of paperwork with the government and try to do an adjustment of status and try and get a work permit and stuff like that. That takes a long time. Then finally you get your work permit, you can start working, it gets a lot easier. And then finally you get your green card, which gets a little bit easier. And then hopefully, and I recommend to everybody, is become a citizen as soon as possible. The reason for that is if something goes wrong, if you get arrested, if you get into any kind of trouble, and trust me, this is the US. You can get arrested for anything in this darn country. Trust me about that one. Okay? Been there, done that. But yeah. So get your citizenship.
The high surf advisory has been extended until December 16th.
Alexa,
7
stop.
p.m. EST.
Get your citizenship as soon as possible, and that way you can't get kicked out of the country very readily. But if you're on a green card or if you're on a work permit or a work visa, yeah, something can happen and you can be thrown out of the country by a judge and you're back to square one at that point. It's not like you've lost everything. You can probably still go back to your family and move in with friends and family and stuff, but it's a pain in the rear end having to restart your life after you've just sold everything and moved to another country. So yeah, it's a long, very arduous process to become a citizen. Is it worth it? I honestly have my doubts. You know, there are we could probably go into this in another video, but the people talk about the American dream, but I'm not sure if that really exists anymore. And there are lots of other good countries out there that have good quality of living. One of the things I found going from various jobs over here is that everybody is really self-employed. Now, you don't think of that thing. You get benefits from your company and you get all that stuff and stock options or whatever. You don't think of the fact you're actually self-employed, because over here, you know, a lot of the time a company can get rid of you with a moment's notice and you can leave the company at a moment's notice. Now, what do we call that? We call that in a lot of other countries being basically self-employed, like being a contractor. Well, in the US, it's just a way of life, is that they can get rid of you and you can get rid of them at a moment's notice. So it benefits for you to always be looking for jobs and always keep your skills up to date. One time, you know, a few times actually, I didn't keep my skills up to date and I got burned from that one very severely. So that's why I'm always reading books. I'm always doing things in my brain these days, because you have to keep your skills up to date, because that is part of being self-employed. Basically, you're responsible for your own future. Even if you work for somebody else, you're still self-employed, because you're employing yourself for that company, and you have to keep your skills up to date. Otherwise, eventually, the job is going to outgrow you and you're going to get laid off for some reason. So that's the culture over here. In a lot of countries, you will basically, you know, you'll sit in a job and you'll earn your keep, and then 20, 30, 40 years in a job, they'll give you a gold watch or a gold pen or a nice clock and push you out the door, and you have a nice cushy retirement. This is the US. No, it ain't gonna happen at all, basically. No, you are a disposable commodity over here. If the company needs to cut back on somebody, they're gonna get rid of you. And also, if you need to find something better and need more money, you're gonna leave the company as well. There's no loyalty over here. I know a lot of the Japanese companies, there's probably some Japanese guys listening to this, there's a lot of loyalty there. I know, because I work for some Japanese companies. There's a lot of loyalties to the company there. In the US, there's no loyalties to the company. You're not married to the company. You're your own free will, shall we say, and you can come and go as you please and decide one day, hey, I'm going to quit, and you quit. And that's it. It's very sort of a weird environment with the companies over here. But I started off small. I started off working for this small company. I won't mention the name, of about 10 people. And if you've ever seen the movie Office Space, I suggest you watch it, because it was just like that place. I had 10 different bosses that were always chewing me up over various things. And, you know, I detected that. And with my self-employed mindset, shall we say, I was like, yeah, I'm out of here. So I reached out to a major company over here who wanted to hire me, but they wanted to hire me as a contractor. So then I went to a contracting company and said, hey, I've got this contract, do you want to take me up on it and hire me, and I will introduce you to the customer. So I brought this major company a contract, and I started working for this major auto manufacturer for several years, shall we say. And I was the go-to guy for all their networking stuff and all their servers. But I got cushy. I made a big mistake. One of probably my biggest career mistakes of my life. I got cushy. I got happy. I was running this massive network of, you know, several hundred servers all across the US, basically. And I didn't get my certifications up to date. I kind of got blindsided by the success of running this big network. Slowly, one by one, all of my servers started disappearing in my data centers. And I was left with running a handful of servers, and I should have seen it coming, but I didn't see it coming. And eventually, the firm actually did it in a weird way. This particular company, they invited me for an off-site lunch with me and a member of the contract team. I was like, as soon as I saw that, I was like, why are you inviting me for an off-site lunch? I know what's going on here. I kind of looked around me and realized that, hey, this is going to be the layoff notice kind of thing. So I just said, hey, just lay it on me right now, and just tell me right now. And they told me, hey, don't come back to work tomorrow. And it was nothing I had done. My performance was awesome. I've been running this network for about 5 years, and all of a sudden, just like that, boom, gone. That's the way it works in the US, unfortunately. The good news is I found a job like a week later, and that was a weird job, shall we say. I spent 6 months working in a research lab, which had some scary parts, shall we say. I'm not going to go into too much detail of what was going on there, but there was lots of experiments with radiation, and you had to get suited up going into various rooms, and there were, unfortunately, I hate to say this, there were animals there, and there were also humans there as well, and shall we say, humans that are donating themselves to science were there. So it was a very weird experience. Lots of creepy things there. Strange thing is, a lot of people who worked there didn't live very long. There was an obituary section in the company newspaper, and these people were like 30s and 40s, and they were dying of things like pancreatic cancer and just weird things. And some of these people were dying from the diseases they were researching. It was kind of a crazy environment to be in. One of the weirdest things is they had the young kids would do the dirty work, shall we say. So if there was some like radioactive waste to be cleaned up or something like that, they would have these young 17-year-old kids that didn't know any better cleaning this stuff up, and it was kind of scary in that respect, I have to say. And there was also lots of other weird things like the emergency showers. And if you ever seen an emergency shower, basically if you have an accident, they show up, they strip all your clothes off you in the middle of the lab, and they pour freezing cold water over you. Not the best experience. It happened to a few people out there. Fortunately, I was always very careful. It never happened to me, and I was only there 6 months before the big layoff. So the big layoff, it was Martin Luther King Day in Michigan. It was absolutely freezing cold. There was like 2 feet of snow on the ground. It was an abysmally cold day. And we were all invited into the auditorium for this good presentation about the future of the company. Yada, yada, yada. All this, the CEO was there, slide deck. The CEO wasn't actually physically there. He was doing this like a video conference. You call it Zoom these days, but a video conference thing from his castle up in the, wherever it is, So he's doing this video conference. Going through all these slides, I didn't bother showing up to it. I had too much work to do that day. I didn't want to get involved in this corporate hoo-ha and these stupid village meetings or whatever they call themselves these days. So I didn't want to get involved in that. So I was just sitting there at my desk, closing trouble tickets and that kind of stuff. And apparently they went through this slide deck, and at the very last slide, they were like, and as part of this positive transformation, we are closing this place, this place, this place, this place, this place, this place, and this place. They basically closed like 50% of their facilities on that last slide. It was unbelievable. People started crying, they started walking out. They was just, because people had spent their whole lives at that company, they were expecting to spend the rest of their life at that company and leave with a big pension and a gold watch in a few years. That's all they had known. Some people, there's one guy there who was, I think he was like 70 years old. He joined as an intern. He'd been there that long. And all of a sudden these people were told, hey, in 2 weeks, you're not going to be working here no more. You're going to be at the unemployment office. I got up to see what was going on, looked out the window, and there were just swarms of people just walking out to their cars, crying, kicking the snow. It was a complete disaster. Fortunately, I kind of lucked out on that one. I saw it happening and got my next job for another major company. Anyway, onto other things, but yeah, the U.S. employment situation is very interesting, shall we say, and that can happen to anybody. You've seen the videos of CEOs firing people on Zoom calls, and I think Radio Shack a few years ago fired people by text message. It's very cutthroat over here, shall we say. That's the environment we're in. And you have to live with it, and that's the way the world has changed. I did also go through a divorce. I'm not going to talk too much about that. Divorce is one of the most life-changing events you can go through, and you should at all costs avoid divorce. But when you've prayed to God and you've tried everything, and you've gone through everything and nothing is working with the other person, and the other person isn't going to change, isn't willing to change, or physically cannot change. I feel sorry for the people that cannot change. I'm one of those people who can change. I'm one of those people that can adapt. I'm lucky in that respect, but I feel sorry for these people. There are people out there that have very bad addictions maybe, and they have very bad other issues, and they cannot change. They cannot change for their kids, they cannot change for their spouse, they cannot change for anything, and they will not change. And that's when divorce comes into the picture. Divorce is like the atomic bomb, basically. It is going to devastate everybody, and we all know that in a nuclear war nobody wins. It's as simple as that. We all know that if a nuclear war kicked off today, nobody would win. A bunch of people would just basically survive. Okay, that is what divorce is. Basically, you will survive, you will get through it, but it'll be hard. My last thoughts before I went through divorce was, well, I don't care if I'm having to live in a tent in a state park, my heart will be beating. And that's the attitude to take. Attitude to take is that this thing will not kill you. If you have to go through it, you go through it. If you lose everything and have to start again from a tent, and I almost did, then you'll be okay. And I did start again with nothing, and it was very bad, because I won't talk too much about this, because I was abused. I didn't really read any of the paperwork. I just signed it and wanted to get the heck away as quickly as possible. You'll know that flight or fight kicks in, and you either fight the thing or you run away from it. And in my case, flight had definitely kicked in. I wanted to run away from it, and I would have signed anything to get away as quickly as possible. And I signed some documents that I regret, and I still have problems with those today, shall we say. But I'm alive. It won't kill you. Divorce will not kill you. You will kill yourself if you want to, but divorce itself will not kill you. And you have to remember that, especially all the guys that are going through this. I know it's brutal. I know it's going to hurt you, but it's not going to kill you unless you choose to kill yourself. Don't kill yourself. Have that fighting spirit. Hold it together. There is a future out there for you beyond divorce, and it is hard. That really brings me a time when I had nothing. Like I said previously, there was a time when I couldn't afford to turn the lights on at night. I couldn't afford to run my air conditioner. I couldn't afford to run my hot water heater. It was an abysmal time, shall we say. I would just walk to the store and buy what I needed. I worked out during that time the cheapest way a person can live is on bread and cheese. So guess what? On the weeks I had nothing, I ate bread and cheese all week until I got paid. But I kept my view on what was ahead of me. When you're in a horrible, terrible situation, you have to put blinders on, like the horses. Put blinders on. Look directly ahead of you. Look at where you want to go. Look at your objectives. Look at your goals. Don't look at what's around you, because what's around you is gonna scare the bejeebus out of you. It is like you're in a haunted house or something. You don't want to look behind you, that's for sure, because the past sucks. You don't look around you, because when you look around you and realize you're in a studio apartment with a mattress on the floor, yeah, it sucks and it scares you. So you look ahead, you look at your future, and look at the people who inspire you. And what one person really did inspire me through this. There was a Filipino I met online, didn't meet her in person, shall we say, and she helped keep my sanity through the couple of years or something after the divorce, and she was my introduction to the Philippines, shall we say. And I'm very thankful to her, because she kept me sane and kept me around, and for the most part, it was a good relationship. The way it ended was that long distance relationships have to have a final goal to be together, otherwise they're not going to work out. And we reached a log jam. A log jam is like, where you have something blocking a river. Think of your relationship as a river that has to flow from point A to point B. Well, if you have a log jam, if you have something damming that river, it's not going to flow between point A and point B. Our log jam was that she did not want to come to the US, and for various reasons back then, I could not move to the Philippines. So we could never be in the same country together, and that sucked. It sucks because there is a point in a relationship where you crave the human touch. I'm not saying you want to sleep with people and stuff like that, but I'm saying there's a lot to holding hands with someone, to giving someone a hug, and a phone screen, messages to each other cannot replace that. It got to the point after a couple of years where I just couldn't do it anymore. It sucks. I realized I couldn't do it anymore. I realized that we'd never really be together, and I had to call an end to the relationship. And we called an end to the relationship with love, and we still messaged each other for probably a few months after the relationship ended as friends. And it was kind of comical. She would send me dating profiles of guys and say, "Hey, what do you think of this guy? What do you think of that guy?" And so on and so forth. So it's kind of comical the way it ended, and we're kind of friends after it ended for a while, under the agreement that, hey, it didn't work out, and we would never be back together again. That was the agreement, is that, hey, this didn't work out. It didn't work out for our own reasons that we keep private. And we can still be friends, and we can still talk to each other about our dating experiences, but we're never ever gonna meet up and get together, and that's fine. Then when I knew I was going to get married, I pulled the plug on the friendship and said, hey, we're not going to talk to each other anymore, because it's not right to have a female friend when you're in a marriage. No, you can say, okay, you're just friends, but you're opposite members of the sex. There's always going to be the chance there that things could get out of control, and one thing leads to another, and before long you're performing some form of cheating with an ex. It's not worth going there. So we called it quits. And kind of the weird thing is that just a few months ago I was probably 20-30 miles from where she lived, so it all came full circle, but it's past, and she's moved on. I've moved on. We're all completely different people. Sometimes you fall in love with the memories. You fall in love with the memories of that time and what that person did for you during that time. But understand that people move on past that, and lives change, and we've both moved on past that point. And I don't think we probably wouldn't even recognize each other if passed each other in the streets anymore. I think we've both moved on, matured, and things have changed since then. Anyway, I hope you like this video. Part 2 is coming up next.